snow in late April, or mid-April, isn't it? Yeah. Welcome to this double service video featuring these lovely locomotives from years gone by. During this process I have worked closely with Barry Davis and had a lot of help and encouragement from him. Hello and welcome back to Model Railways Unlimited with yet another workbench special. Now today I have got two locomotives for you, the first of which is this one, which is a Duchess or a Princess class. This is Duchess of Kent by Hornby, and she dates from 2003, August in fact 2003, and I bought her second hand. Well, I suspect she's quite new, she's still got a polished iron packing in the cab. Does she run? Well, yes, not great though. Watch. So she's got a tight spot somewhere that's causing her to run terrible, but that could just be that she needs a good service. She has the makings of a fine locomotive, but definitely got a bit of a limp, hasn't she? But this is a 2003 Hornby model, so I'm thinking that she'd probably be great. Now, you've been probably, a lot of my viewers I know watch Barry Davis' stuff, and he's been on this particular path as well, buying almost new, second hand, and paying far less than is demanded today for inferior quality models that are just full of faults and things. And I agree with Barry that the 2000 to 2005, 2007 was pretty good era. My other locomotive is this one. Now, when I opened this, she was brand spanking new. If she's ever run, then it can only have been for a few minutes. This is Elder Dempster Lines, Merchant Navy. She is immaculate. Now she dates for 2007, and she's got the semi-permanently coupled tender, whereas the Princess has got the old forks and pin. But what gets me is that she's been in store for all that time, and look, yeah, a little bit stiff in places, but look at it, she just runs. So this video is going to do two services, or A exams as they used to be called on the railway, but we'll be doing the Princess first. Now just bring her back into shot for you. I mean, what a monster this machine is. Just look at the size of her. But I really hope that there's nothing too wrong. So next thing we're going to do is crack on and find out how to open her. Okay, so the Princess, or the Duchess of Kent. What are we going to call her, a Princess or a Duchess of Kent? What do you think? Let's stick with the Princess. So she's in the service cradle. I'm going to be wearing my magnifier headlight, which is absolutely essential for this sort of work. And we're having a first look. And the first thing I notice is that on the wheel tyres is a few signs of a little bit of dirt. There is virtually no lubrication on that gear, which is positive because we want an excuse as to why she's not running very well. Probably just been in store for a very long time, poor old girl. Now, one of the things that can be a weakness on these models is the slide bars, and where they fit into this bracket here and then into the cylinders. These are perfectly in place. So I can give you a better view on the other side. Sorry about the handheld camera. Yeah, you can see where the slide bars are. You're looking down on the top one, or the bottom one. Oh dear. And they go into the bracket and they just plug in. What I'm going to do, using a bent pin and a tiniest drop of super glue, is just make sure that they're solidly in their positions. Before we go any further, I'm going to do that because we don't want them coming out. So I don't think you really need to see me using super glue, so I'm just going to do that and then we'll crack on with the rest of it. Why a bent pin, I hear some of you cry? Well, that's so that you can get to the back of the slide bars and apply the glue, because just in case it shows up, it shouldn't do, because I'm using the really smallest amount. But that's them done, so they should not now come out of place. So let's get her open. Right, so we've removed the screw. On these they do have the speedo cable, which I'm not a fan of, but let's try and keep her as she is. Use the special Hornby tool, there it is, to undo the crank pin and then remove the cable which is attached to the body. So I can't possibly do that and hold the camera, so I'm going to do that and we'll come back and see what happens. Beautifully simply, all you do is remove this screw under the bogie, front bogie. Don't have to dismantle the entire model just to get her open. So the pin has been removed, and the speedo cable, which is now flopped there, left loose. And then I've put the pin back in because we want to do some testing and things, and also I don't want to lose it. So now it's very simple. She will just come out of the body. Look, you see she's going to lift up already. Again, I need to use both hands, but we'll come back straight away after. And here we are inside. And I'm just looking at the little gear there. That looks dry. Not too much movement, so it's not too loose. A nice old original good quality 5-pole motor. Everything looks bone dry, so I'm expecting to find that the original lubricants have gone very hard, which is why she's not turning over. So let's undo the little screw here, which will allow us to get access to the worm, and we can have a look at what's going on in there. So we're inside, we've got the top off. You can see some of the old lube that's sprayed around, and yes, as expected, it's gone. Look at that. I mean, it's a little bit gungy still, but we're going to clean all of that out, and then I imagine she might run a lot better. But there's a little bit more dismantling to do, and we'll come back and discuss that in a minute. So because I want to take the motor out, do you see that screw there under the rear pony truck? That is the motor securing screw for the bracket at the back. So I have to undo that. Camera on a tripod, should have done that in the first place. So in order to get at that screw for the motor bracket, we have to undo the pony truck. Now that is connected by wires for pickup, so we're going to have to be doubly careful. And it's also on a spring. See that? There's the wires, there's the spring. We'll just undo that now. And that's the bracket loose. Take the little screw out. And then to keep everything in place, I'm going to put that back in. Nice sprung bogie. Pony truck. And one that moves and swivels and isn't just a horrible flangeless, I don't even know what you'd call it, but a horrible flangeless affair. So the rear bracket is loose, which means the motor can be moved. And there's the motor. Oh god, he's stiff in there. We will assist him out. There he comes. Now there's a bit of tacky stuff underneath it, do you see? I hope you're seeing that. Yeah, that's the first set of gears. And the next one down goes down to the wheels. But look, you can see that needs a good clean up. And it's bone dry otherwise. I don't know what that is. A little shim. Better keep that there. That's for the front motor fixing. All these little things that you have to be aware of when taking something apart like this. So that's going to stay in place. I'm going to clean all this up. You don't need to see me do that, and we'll come back once it's all done. Welcome back. Right, the gear has been nicely cleaned up, and the worm on the motor. And look inside. I don't know if you can see that. Absolutely dry and clean in there. So the next job is to use some Hornby lube, gear lube, and some Labelle 102 on the motor bearings, and then we'll reassemble this little bit. Taking the chance whilst the motor's disconnected to check the running of the chassis, and it seems not too bad. There's a very tight spot in one place, but I think that's just purely lack of lube. She's dry as a bone. So we'll get the old girl lubricated up and move on to the next bit, which will be the bottom plate and checking the axles. So I'm back off the tripod because I really need to let you see this. And it's very, very important that these bearings are properly lubricated. And I use the gear grease for them because they're into the chassis, and they can wear. And the other point that needs to be assured of being lubricated is the tops here, because these clamp down on top of it. I think Barry Davis did a really good video explaining what to do if this wears and you start getting a lot of movement in this gear, which can make an awful noise. So pop over to his channel and look for that. It's very helpful. But anyway, so yeah, please make sure you thoroughly lubricate that. Not too much though, as it's all going to run down the side, but gear lube is probably ideal, both sides, and we're nearly done. So we've removed the 3 screws from the bottom plate for the pickup, and we just take that away, and we can see what we have inside, which is not a lot really, but we can now get to the pickups, make sure they're clean and correctly positioned. And we can also lubricate the axles nicely. So I've carefully connected to there, and everything's been lubricated. Now when you take the bottom plate off, you will find that at that point there and that point there are 2 pressure contact points that go through for the pickups. Not the most marvellous of things. Anyway, everything's been lubricated, the axles have been lubricated, and she is now running, as you can see. But I am not 100% happy with one part of the valve gear. So I'm just going to have a little look and see what's going on there. You probably can't see it here, but if you look at the crank pin centre screen now, it looks like someone's eased the coupling rod bearing round it. Never a great sign. So I have her on the rolling road. Now if you watch the slide bar here, not the slide bar, the crosshead, seems to jump up towards the end of its stroke, where there's also, see it going? Also a very stiff bit. So not quite sure what's going on there, but I'll have a good check of everything. You can see how that is flexing, so something's really pushing as it goes in there. We need to have a good old check. So here we are. That crosshead does still jump a little bit, but it may sort itself out, or I may find out what I might need to do to get it working. But this was virtually a non-runner. Now look at her. She's had half hour, 20 minutes running in. It was quite surprising given her age. Don't forget this is 2003. But I set her at a normal sort of half speed for running in, and gradually she got faster and faster and faster. So I wonder how much use she's actually had. So the next job will be to fit some of the detailing parts out of the packet. That will include the brake gear, Might put a couple of lamps on the front and see if the steps can be fitted without interfering with the bogey's movement. Bit of a compromise, sometimes you have to leave them off, but you can't complain at that, can you? I wonder how many new Hornby locos will still run after all that time with just a little bit of attention. Didn't have to do much really. Bit of a clean round, get rid of the old dried out lubricant, and then fettle with the crosshead. Oh, and remembering to fit the speedo again. So there is Duchess of Kent coming to the end of our workbench time. The jumping crosshead was fixed by slightly bending the slide bars inwards to reduce the amount of play. This was one of Barry Davis's suggestions, and it really helped. I also noticed at the ends of the piston rod were two small burrs. These were smoothed off, and while there is still a hint of the jumping, the running is now 90% or more. She's fantastic. Now it's time to tackle this rather beautiful Merchant Navy. Oh, look. And as she runs, I'm hoping that it's just going to be a very basic service that we'll look at now. So first thing to note is DCC has now happened. Obviously this is a 2007 model, but we've still got the lovely articulated pony truck instead of the horrible thing they're doing now. And overall most of it should be similar to the Princess that we just looked at, but I've got to pop that little plug out and separate the tender, and that's the first job. Righto, undoing is virtually the same as before, although instead of a crosshead screw, we've now got this crosshead screw instead of the slotted screw. And no speedo cable. So by 2007 had they decided to drop it. I can't say I'm overly disappointed, to be honest. So let's go ahead and get that screw out and release the body and see what we got inside. Inside, I don't know if I have some large amounts of weight, but there's evidence of super glue being thrown around, which is a bit worrying. Motor and that looks alright, there's extra tape on it. I wonder what's going on there. If someone's trying to put more weight in there, because there's something in there that looks a bit like bits of lead. You can see a horrible effect that superglue has. So here's the mechanism. We now have a different type of motor. I don't think they're too bad. We still need to undo the screw there to get to here. So have a look, see what's going on. All taped up around the back. Look. I'm going to want to get to that back motor bearing. Right, so I can't hold the camera as we've discussed. I'm going to undo and come back and show you what we find. What we find is that there's very little, but what there is has not gone hard. So it might not need the full clear out that we had to do on the Princess. We built back the tape to get at the rear motor bearing, and actually when you look at this motor, it is very similar design to the black one, just got a silver case. So with luck it's just as good. Now I've got a drop of L102, just a tiny drop because it's near the brushes, and then another drop there on the front, and it is nice and clean, so I've just re-lubricated the gears. So that's really good, as expected. I don't know how it's managed to last so well. good grease perhaps that they used in the 2007. As with the Princess, we removed the free screws, then this first plate comes off, and underneath this other plate here has got all the pickups on it. Because she's in good nick, I don't think there's any need to disturb it. Because it might spoil things. So I'll mop up the excess oil there, re-lube, and then we've just got to do the coupling rods and valve gear. So for the valve gear I tend to use Labelle 108. It's just a really good oil, and a tiniest drop on all the bearings. Basically anything that has to move should have a drop. And it's the same for the other side, which I'll now do. Now, one of the downsides of the DCC fitted loco is that we have to put the tender in now to make her run, which is a pain. Oh, when you're I don't know if I can show you this. When you're reassembling, there's two lugs at the back of the chassis that go into the body, and there's also a little hole. Can you see that? In the middle between the two pins, and that's where the wire for the tender comes out. So I'll reconnect the tender and we'll give her a bit of a spin up and see what happens. So there we are now, running silky smooth already. So all I need to do is clean the wheels and do the tender, fit the details, and I think this one will be ready to go. Excellent. So I fitted the front steps. What an absolute faff they are. I can see them getting broken off ever so easily. I fitted the front vac pipe as well. I fitted the brake rigging. No particular good directions in the thing to show you how it should go. And we'll have a look at it once it's up right way. So there she is. And wow, what a lovely loco. And you know what? I hardly think she's going to even need running in. Don't need to fit lamps either, as Mr. Bullied was so kind as to build them in, electric ones no less. I probably will give her a run in, just to make sure everything's bedded in and okay. I'm very pleased. It just goes to show you that the second hand market is worth looking at. You can pick yourself up some proper old bargains. And there are two of the loveliest yet. Want to see a running video? I thought so.